and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Thayer,
Here.
Bamberg,
Here.
Gilbine,
Here.
Hoffman,
Here.
Batcher, here, McNally,
Here.
Turnbull,
Here.
Flaker, here, Townsend, and Baker.
Here. Now for the agenda, we have some changes proposed. Under new business, if you renumber those 2, 3, and 4 that you see, then ahead of number 2, we're going to put in a number 1 called donation request. Steve, are there any other changes to the agenda?
Yes, we'd like to go into closed session today to discuss purchase of property.
Okay.
And other than that, Mr. Baker, I have no other changes.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept the agenda with changes.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Minutes of March 12th.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes from March 12th, regular meeting as presented.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Special orders, we have none. Requesting an agenda, we have none. Public comments will ask 3 times. Public comments once. Public comments twice. Public comments 3 times. That closes public comments. Yeah. Okay, and new business, donation request. Steve, you got something on that?
Yes, I do. I wanted to bring this up because as your DDA coordinator, I'm receiving a lot of requests from different people in the community about donations. What I would like to do is to be able to, when somebody does request a donation, I would like to express to the board my feelings and as your DDA coordinator, what I would give for that request. I'm watching the budget very closely. I'm watching the cash that we have in hand, and I have future things that are pending with me as your DDA coordinator that I cannot discuss, that I build files on, and one of them being something that we're going to discuss today. So with that being said, I don't want people in the community and people that are asking for requests to think that the DDA is a bank. We are not a bank. And when you guys approve, I would like to give my suggestion on what I would think would be a fair amount. But when somebody comes to us at 100%, ultimately you guys have that decision. But I'm looking at the long-term range of like a 5-year plan that I'm working closely with Tanya and stuff on that, so that when we go to do big projects that I feel are going to benefit the community, I want to make sure that that money's there. Other than that, I'm okay on that.
When you said 100%, you think some people have some idea they want to do something, but they want to get it 100% funded rather than doing a fundraiser?
Correct. Or thinking that the DDA will, you know, make that money to them and stuff like that. For example, if somebody's asking for $10,000, maybe we give them $5,000 or $2,000. because I just don't want to, unless it's something like the John Hoffmann property that we just purchased, that was donated to us, almost 29 acres, valued at about $101,000. We picked up roughly about $10,000 in fees that came along with it that I felt and the board felt, because you approved that John shouldn't be on the hook for that. But just somebody coming in and giving me a letter that they want $8,000 or $10,000 for this, I just want to have a little input of where I would like to be on that. Ultimately, the board makes those final decisions. I just want the board to know we are not a bank, and I'm trying to run the DDA as a business and watch our money that we have in the account.
All requests will come to the board, so we'll review those as we see them.
Okay.
So let's move on to Birch Run. Have any more on donation requests? Okay. Let's move on to Birch Run DDA and beautification.
I left you guys a copy of this because we had a few board members come in early today. Pretty self-explanatory. I won't read right through it. I'll just kind of highlight a few things. I had a meeting with Paul Moore from Birch Run, who is the village manager and also the DDA coordinator. And all of you knew that I was going to be meeting Paul as far as some beautification ideas and what they're currently doing in Birch Run. The DDA puts out approximately 20 plastic decorative pots. They're planted by Ableys every year. They last about 5 to 6 years. So their only charge that they have to pay is for the replanting of the pots and the $50 one-time drop-off fee. How Paul Moore decided where to put the pots, he drove through the district there, and they have a very small district. It's the village and the township. These pots are in the village area. Ableys picks them up mid-April, and they plant them, and if you look, they're working on a very low budget. $500 is given from the DDA to they don't have a beautification like Bridgeport does, or a committee. So they get $500 out of the DDA budget, and they send out letters to businesses for donations, totaling of about $1,200. They plant the flower pots 3 times a week. The plant that they're using is a, do I have it on here? It's a begonia, it's a dragon wing begonia. That's it sitting right there, and I'll talk to you about it. It's in that small pot there. They go out 3 times a week, and they have 4 volunteers, one being Paul and one being his wife, and then 2 other people. They received a 1997 Silverado ton pickup truck from a police and fire program from the U.S. Army, and I have Dave looking into that right now to see if we can get on that same type program and receive something. When they received the truck, they took it all apart on the back, flatbedded it, and they have a watering system there that they go out and they plant their flowers in their district, or they water their flowers in their district. Birch Run doesn't have any flower beds along the streets. The only flower beds that they maintain is at the Memorial Park, and those, he said, are rather small. Birch Run also carries insurance on the people that are doing the volunteer. They are approved by the council. So anybody just can't volunteer, they must be approved. When they go out, they wear reflective vests, rules and regulations of operations, and they are in a vehicle that belongs to the DDA in the village of Birch Run. In addition to the flower pots, they go along with the American flags, where all their Christmas decorations are. They have a flagpole there. They put up American flags. Memorial Day weekend, those go through November, which is Veterans Day. And then as soon as Veterans Day is over with, they go ahead and put up their Christmas The second part of this was
So
the,
they're putting up the flag when they're taking the Christmas decorations down and switching them back.
they're putting up the flag Memorial Day
Church
weekend.
to the poles when they change.
Correct. They're putting up the flags Memorial Day weekend, and on Veterans Day, they take the flag down, they automatically put the light up, the Christmas light up at that time. Killing kind of two birds with one stone there. And then on the back, the snow removal, I think we'll, you can read that, but I'm gonna get into that when I get down to, well, we can talk about that now too. You guys, no, that'll go under, snow removal when we get to the sidewalks. So with that being said, we had a committee meeting last week. After our last meeting, Roberta contacted me. She contacted about 4 different communities that do beautification. They do awards, they do contests, they do a lot of different things. So I asked Berta if she would like to sit in on the committee meeting, which she said yes. So last Thursday, we had Roberta and yourself, Mr. Baker, Karen Betcher, and Augie, Rose, and myself. And we talked about this letter here, of what I put together for you and what Birch Run is doing. And the consensus of the committee was to go ahead and try and look into doing the same thing that Birch Run is doing. Yesterday, Rose and I went out.
Specifically, you're talking about the flags and the Christmas decorations. correct?
Flags and flowers.
And flowers.
Specifically right now, flags and flowers. Because Christmas has all been, we've all purchased that and those will be here in July. Rose and I got in the company truck yesterday, and we, the committee thought that we should start at Bearcat Road, which is where the corner of McDonald's is, and go down to Baker Road for this year, and that's on the corner of Rite Aid and the Cass River Yacht Club. To put out some pots and stuff in that location, and then next year, see how that goes this year, and next year expand that horizon and pick up another mile, go down the road or whatever. Rose and I yesterday went out, we were out all morning. We drove very slowly. I had the truck with the light on, 4x4s running so nobody would hit us. And Rose would write down what we thought, only what we thought, where we would like a barrel. So for example, if we thought this was about 60 or 100 feet, was almost placed in about every 10 feet. Is kind of where we might, kind of where we thought it would be. Yep, one would look nice here on the corner. We drove up, all right, let's plunk another one here. Let's go here, let's go here. Spacing them so that they would really make an impact on the community. We came up with 200 pots. Now, when we went over to...
How far apart did you estimate?
Pardon?
How far apart did you estimate?
About 10 feet. Okay? So I think it could be 8 feet, it could be 10 feet, it could be whatever. We really didn't get out of the truck and measure it. We'd be there probably a week, but we just kind of went along and said, okay, to make an impact, like right here, if this were this table here, I don't know how long it would be, I would say we'd have one here and one probably down there. Wouldn't need 3 here. So if this were my yard at home or looking at it, I'd probably have a flower pot here and another flower pot down there. We didn't put them real close together, but we didn't put them real far apart. We just used what we thought would be the best. So we came up with about 211 of them. And then we went over to Abley's, and I asked Matt if he would, if you guys approve this, if he would jump in the car with me and go and see if we strategically came up with a good approach. Maybe we only need 150. I don't know. You know, we're guessing right now. But I think what we did, we came up with 211. When we went over to Abley's, well, Roberta had contacted Matt from Abley's too, and we got a quote, $46 to fill the pot and $26 to buy the pot, a one-time fee. following year you wouldn't pay for that pot. It's a 22-inch pot across. Well, when Rose and I went to meet Matt at Abley's, we kind of liked the white one to go with the white, red and blue American flag. We thought this would be a nice impact. This is a 19-inch pot. He gave it to us for cost, and his mother-in-law was there, and this is $6. He's going to sell it to us for $6, and he lowered the price to the plant itself to $42 from $46. These are the, what were they again? Dragon wing begonias, and then they put this spike in the middle of it. There is nothing, it was brought up at the committee meeting, what about weed whacking around when people are cutting their grass and stuff, which you'll still have that problem there, but there's nothing that's going to really flow out of these so that they rip all those vines. This is going to kind of grow up, and then this will grow up. And Matt says that it will make a big impact. So if we are looking at $42 plus our $6, that would be $48. If we get 150 of those, we are looking at $7,200, and 200 of them would be $9,600. The concern was brought up from the committee of who would we have water these. And I kind of thought that I would go to all the businesses when we bring them out with a little letter. If they want to make a donation, I'm still going to do that if you approve this, if they would like to make a donation. But are you able to water them 2 to 3 times a week? So for example, if we were going in front of, let's say Jeff's business, and there was 3 of them out there, I would go in. Rose and I are probably going to go together. We want to get out in the community. We shake your hand. We're going to pot. This is a project that the DDA is going to do. We're going to put out 3 or 4 pots in front of you. Are you willing to water them? And see whether they say yes or no. If we get a lot of no responses, we have Plan B. Plan B was we met with Pat Nelson from our fire chief. There is a trailer here that is all set up. It has to be pulled by a 3/4 ton pickup. We do have the pickups here. And Karen had indicated when you guys did beautification, you were paying somebody to do $70 a year per flower, per pot, right? Which the beautification did. It was a one-time fee of $70 for the year. Obviously, you had less pots than what we're thinking about putting out. There is a trailer. It has a system on it that you can hook right to a garden hose. And with the light on the truck and flags or whatever, what we thought is some of the volunteer fire guys would go out and water these. Now, the lady who owns Abley said they only need to be watered twice a week. She says that up north at her cottage, she puts these in, and sometimes she's not there for 2 weeks, she's told Rose and I, and they grow great. There's no pruning, there's no nothing that, they're very, very maintenance free. It's just the watering. So if the residents, if the business owners and residents where we're gonna put them don't wanna water them, we will make sure that the fire department or somebody waters them, and we would probably sit down with Pat and say, well, what are the guys going to do? Charge $8 an hour, $10 an hour, something like that? The DDA would have to pick up that cost of watering for the summer. I think it would make a great impact on the community. You already gave $10,000 for the 2 flower beds that the beautification. Even if we spend a total of $7,000 to $9,000, we only got $19,000 invested, where there were years where we gave $50,000. And I know, Karen, this stuff's expensive after you start looking into it and maintaining it and all that kind of stuff, so. But we kind of want to start with those areas right there, and that was suggested to me by the committee for the beautification. If we're going to do this project, they got to start planting these in the next couple weeks, and then they would bring them over right around Memorial Day, depending on weather. And they would go right on through September, they said. And then the other thing is the committee thought that putting the flags up would also be a nice idea. I mentioned this today at our chamber meeting, which Daryl was there with me. Very positive response, would you say, Mr. Thayer? That since both communities are kind of joining together a little bit, it would give kind of that same look, and they were kind of excited of seeing, using the same type of flower and stuff like that. Rose and I brought over the 2 different pots. The one that we would like to go with is the 19-inch pot for the savings of $20-some. They are telling us they'll have a great impact in the community, but we also brought the terracotta too, to let the board decide what color pot that they would want to go with. I think I hit everything, didn't I?
Thank you, Steve. I think the question is open to us, what are we going to do with the, if anything, the flowers for this year, based on the program that was put together by the subcommittee that was appointed by this board. So I'm looking for input, comments.
That's a great idea.
I had a question. What, is that the township? The DDA, beautification, who takes care of that? Who is leading that? Is the township?
DDA. DDA.
DDA.
I will work with, the placement with Pat. I will work with Pat's staff to, make sure that they're watered and stuff. Maybe we just want to take it up, but I think if some people can go out and kind of water them themselves, I mean, if I was a business owner and I'm getting 4 pots put out in front of me and a total of, a couple $100, I'd go out there and I'd make sure, it takes 5 minutes, 3 times a week to water your flowers. But does that always happen? No. We know that, based on some information that Karen has talked to us about when they put things out there. Very hard to get volunteer people, very hard to get people to do it. So we need to do it, we need to take the project on, and if you approve it, I'll make sure that it's all set, you guys won't have anything to do.
Does that include the dirt to go in the pot too?
The dirt, just right there. It would look just like that into the big one. All the dirt. I did ask the question that if we left the pots out, would we be able to maybe use them for some Christmas things and stuff like that? Would they break and all that? He said no, they're very durable pots, but they're only $6. The concern that he did have, I might as well bring it up, the concern that Matt had was, what if somebody steals 1 or 2? Okay, or 3 or 4, or all of them? Well, Rose and I talked about that in length. Number 1, shame on them for doing it. Number 2, I don't think we have to sit here and worry about if somebody's going to steal. They were stealing copper off of a pole the other day, and Rose had to get Ron out there. They took all the copper. They steal they'll do whatever that they're going to do. To sit and worry about a pot getting stolen, if some did get stolen, I'd probably work with the department and maybe jockey a few around or something like that, just so that it shows a good impact for this year. Is that a probability that that's probably going to happen? Most certainly.
I would think that
We're worried about them smashing.
What's that?
leaving them out in the wintertime doesn't sound like a real good idea. If we have another winter with the kind of snow we had this year,
You just take them all down and then set them off to the side somewhere and store them. They'll come back in April, pick them up and take them over there.
Was the placement of the barrels between the sidewalk and the road?
Yes. we kind of followed your little pattern too, where we saw some barrels still out there. Like on the corner of Rite Aid, you have a group of 3 there. The corner of Fort Road where the bench sits and stuff like that. I don't think there's anything there, but we kind of we'd like to make that as a little focal point. We had 3 of them sitting out there. Yes, between the sidewalk and the road, which actually belongs to the county.
We have to get permission to put them out there?
Good question. Did you guys ever have to get permission to put them out? Or did you just do it?
We have permission to work in that area as a beautification committee,
Okay.
and that seemed to cover everything it needed to cover.
And we have been talking about the last couple of meetings that beautification would like to kind of fall underneath the umbrella of the DDA or whatever. This is kind of a perfect time to maybe kind of go that way and still work with beautification and that. And then you're going to see some interesting stuff that we were able to gather on the rock on I-75. So it might not be a bad idea at this point to work with the beautification committee that's already there. We're not trying to take anything away from beautification, but in the last 3 years, we have had nothing out there.
John, we consider Karen representing the beautification committee and dovetailing with the project is together. So that would be a joint venture with us.
So we'd have to transfer some money again from one of these other.
Yes.
What do you estimate the project total is likely to be?
Well, I'm thinking we're gonna be somewhere around the 150 to 200 pots, again, depending on what Matt tells us, because I just don't wanna say Rose and I are right with 211, but we just strategically thought, you know, this would be, I'm gonna say, if we spent, let's say between $9,000 and $12,000. 9 being on the flowers and maybe about $4,000 to have some volunteers to go out twice a week and water them. And in the decorations, you guys had given me a budget of $15,000 and we spent 12 there. So, we negotiated the deal from what he had given Roberta. Obviously, the pot is 3 inches small, 3 inches smaller, but again, I'm trying to watch the money too, but I think this is gonna make a big impact in the community.
And what account think those we charge to?
It would be under streetscape, or I'd have to look at again, we're going to, whatever account it comes out of, whether there's beautification on the budget or wherever, Tammy will have to make a journal entry to make sure that that comes out, just like when we don't have the money allocated in that area.
If they allow you to put you done that as far as
Yeah, we had that.
come in and knock out roses and all that, would save a lot of money if you stationed them out. And those are awesome plants that would go in, and that would save a lot of money. Also, if you just station some of those.
What was that, Eugene? I didn't hear that.
Some of them knockout roses, you can go red, white, get red and white knockout rose bushes, and those are some awesome bushes like I got at the shop down there, and they'll grow to be beautiful, and if you could put them in the ground and then station some pots between them, you might save some money, and then you wouldn't have any maintenance, they'd come back every year other than somebody trimming them. You look at Franklin, moving around First American Citizen, all they got, the knockout roses is awesome when they grow. You know, it's something that you can buy it one time and it'll grow back every year and be an awesome.
Again, we gotta get volunteers, or we gotta get somebody to do those.
Avery's, there are a couple guys over there that would trim them, and you don't really gotta water them.
Yeah, but we gotta look at the cost of what those are.
Right. Well, you can buy the small ones, $20 a piece, and what I bought, 1 year they'll grow like, 4 foot.
And they'll grow to be pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, called a what kind of?
Knockout roses.
Knockout roses.
Abley's has got them in red and white and pink.
I wonder if that might be something to do kind of down by the carpool lot where they, at one point had on that berm, there was spots for planting. Just to
That'd be
do
good
a
spot
test,
for those.
test spot to see how they do in our soil and all of that jazz.
But
As
I
a
wanted to
habit.
put some on for my business, and I didn't know if I could or not, out by the road, but if you're saying you can, I mean, they're $20, $30 a plant.
They make good people stops because you don't want to get too close to it, you scratch stuff pretty good. You might want to consider that when we're putting in public as access.
I just want to make sure whatever we do doesn't require a lot of maintenance and doesn't require a lot of people going out and spending money, because it's hard to get volunteers. We hear that all the time, so.
No, I'm saying them roses would be something that you
Yeah.
could just plant and like, oh, you didn't have to water them or nothing.
No, it may not be a bad idea just to start with. You talk about the park bench, and I looked the other day and there's three, I'm not very good at those kind of things, but there's like 3 plants behind the bench itself. But if we were to put in like a couple of those by that bench and then pick up 2 or 3 other places, it wouldn't be a large investment initially if we had about a dozen of them or whatever the case may be. And then kind of see what happens, and then maybe next year take a look at expanding it or whatever. They are beautiful.
If we do that, I think what I'd have to do is get Matt out and go through the town, give him, and then he would probably have to come back with us on the knockout roses and how many pots and that, and just put a quote together for us, and I could probably bring that back. Well, we'd probably have to call a special meeting, because now we're going into the middle of May, and they gotta start growing these things and start putting them together.
Those are just plant and evolve kind of things, so you wouldn't have to do a special meeting.
Okay.
You could just bring it to the next meeting instead.
Okay.
Another spot to consider, I guess, is that there's that Fort Road intersection by Galen's that Louise often spends a lot of time in, and if somebody wanted to relieve her of that responsibility, she would probably be delighted.
Well, where that spot was there, and I did plan on putting like 3 barrels in there or whatever, because that's quite what that she always used to, weed up and all that stuff. So we kind of went the approach of what would look nice, what would make an impact, maintenance free, and nobody out there hoeing and doing all this kind of stuff, working the soil up and stuff like that.
Steve, you're starting at Baker Road, State Street?
State Street and working all the way down to Bearcat is what the committee had asked me to start with this year.
Okay, so across in front of Rite Aid, you wouldn't be going in front of Rite Aid?
Yes, only on the corner right there in front of Rite Aid, where there's 3 pots there right now.
Okay, so you go complete there, then you would do the same for across the other side?
Yeah.
Yacht Club?
Yeah, Yacht Club didn't have very much area to work with there, because it's real skinny there along the sidewalk and the road, and I believe she plants some tomato things in there, she does something in that area, but we kind of talked about the corner, and then on the corner where Mr. Goldbines, because he's got a lot of parking lot, but right there on that little island right there, and we just kept on going down, pretty much on all the grass area, right on down through to Bearcat, and then all the way back up. When you say 200 pots, man, when we added them up, we like, what, 211 pots? But, you don't want to have them out there sparingly either, You gotta make an impact of them. And then some of the stuff, I think, Karen, that the beautification has done some of those pots, they're all falling apart. We'd have to get those out of there. The metal's coming off of them, some of them are, in pretty bad shape, so. And he did recommend going that. They're a lot more money, and he said they're heavy, and he recommends the plastic. And that same plastic pot, well, they go brown, but the same flower and the begonia, everything that we're thinking about, the dragon, whatever it is, Bavarian uses out in front of their place. A lot of the people in Franklin would use that same one. They're real hardy, and they're really maintenance-free.
Well, the thing about it, it's not like we're trying something that's, gee, let's see how this works. You know, Birch Runs already doing it, they're satisfied, it works well for them, so.
Did they say they were volunteer in the water?
Yes, what they do is they have 4 people that go out and water them, and it's Paul and his wife, he's the village manager, and then they have 2 other people.
That is a piece of equipment that the township owns or something?
They own that equipment.
And the volunteer part is just running it and going up and down the highway.
That is correct.
It doesn't mean that everybody can use it Saturday morning and then, I mean, for history pots?
No,
You know,
no.
and if you want fertilizer, which you should have, you know, the stuff that you spray on the foliage and so on,
Mhm.
you know, that's what ABs do. They're fertilizing their pots and stuff once a week or all week long.
Yeah, well, when we get those delivered, they said we didn't have any fertilization to do, there's no trimming to do. They put it up, I mean, that's what they're telling us. Now, as far as going out and fertilizing them and stuff like that, they basically said that they're a hardy plant and they just need to be watered at least a couple times a week. I don't think Paul is going out fertilizing all that, they're just watering them.
Well, and they put the fertilizer in the water.
Okay, you like the Miracle Grow or
Yes,
something like that?
yes. And I mean,
Which if we
see,
do,
that's, if the guy says, well, I'll water my own, and he's got 3 pots there, then the next day, you know, the water truck comes through, and they have to be told you don't have to water those 3 pots, so it has to be one system or the other. Or, you
And I-
know, then you'll still have trouble.
and I agree on that, that's why I had Plan A and Plan B, and as I told you, I don't know if everybody's gonna go out and water their pots, but if I can coordinate it through Pat and a couple of people that are currently volunteering, of course, we're gonna have to pay them, or they may volunteer, I don't know, but I'm thinking the project would be somewhere between $10,000 to $12,000. That would include the guys going out and doing it, and then we wouldn't have to worry about it, we'd get them on a system, they'd take their truck out, and Pat said they could fill it right over their rows, right at the fire department, and just go out and do their stuff twice a week.
Being in the pots coming from Agley's, they'll put enough fertilizer in there to last a few months that they're gonna be out there, so we shouldn't have to fertilize the pots. So we should be able to just have to water them.
Well, the pot by itself will not bloom, you have to put flowers in it.
They have
And
very well started.
If you want it to look nice, you're gonna feed it all summer long, if you want it to look nice.
Well, and I
The
think,
plant will still be in there fall, but it'll probably be, you know, with the edge. Doesn't mean it wasn't there, but to make it look nice, you're gonna work it.
I think what we could do is I could ask Matt, what he has, like the Miracle Grow or whatever, maybe the once a month or whatever, they put that liquid Miracle Grow right down in with the water or whatever, and when he's out in June, he's fertilizing it. July, he might not need, I mean, I don't see that as a really, as a big thing, because it's all mixed anyway.
That's what Rogardi did.
Did he?
You know, he came with his truck and dumped in his quart or 2 or whatever of that Miracle Grow, and then he filled the tank with water, and then he went about it, and he had a, I don't know, did he have a driver?
Yeah.
Driver plus the guy on the, pulling the hose? Because some places, you know, you can't get right next to the curb, and so you gotta, whatever.
Well, my wife plants a lot of pots, and we get most of the Dablies, but we buy big bags of the potting soil, which contains fertilizer and all those kind of things, and I know that she does not fertilize those during the course of the summer, and they grow great. The only issue would be if we decided to go with knockout roses. You don't have to do it. Dablies recommended this stuff that I bought. You mix it with water, like John says, like once a month. And it's just like a gallon of it, and you pour it at the base of the plant, rose bush, and they do bloom a lot nicer and that kind of stuff. But it's not a case of like with the flower beds where we had to go out and hoe and weed and fertilize them, and you know, lots of loving tender care. I think these would be pretty much sit there and occasionally if they need to be watered, if it didn't rain, that kind of stuff, but I know my wife doesn't fertilize them during the summer and they bloom beautifully. And she doesn't have real green thumb, so that's all I think.
You're talking
Jeff.
about
Jeff will be sending some on Facebook later on, what all he said, but anyway.
My recommendation for this year is to just do the pots. I love the rose idea and stuff like that for the following year. Let's see what's gonna happen this year instead of, start going out there. I'll have to get a price from them of the whole thing, that of cutting the plants, cutting the pots down, getting the rose bushes. We don't know how much, if we're gonna have any theft, we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns right now. I would think this year, if we started with the pots, we can always expand it out. And maybe next year, use less pots, bring in the roses, and then take the pots that we're not gonna use and now go further north or west or east with the pots that we already have, which the committee had talked about that anyway, so.
All right, I'll make a motion to go ahead with the pots with the flowers not to exceed $12,000.
Support.
Could we amend that just before we go there? I think the roses would be great. I'm not saying buy 400 roses, but maybe 6 or 8 of them. Like I said, put a couple of them by the bench down there,
Let me change my,
that kind of thing.
let me just,
Focal points?
let me make a little change. I'll make a motion to go ahead with the flowers. If you wanna try a couple of roses in like in the parking area down there, a couple places, but still not to exceed $12,000.
Support.
Leave it up to, Matt and
Matt, Steve will work that out.
If somebody from the committee wants to go with me and talk to them, I'm willing, but yeah, I can do that. And I think,
Motion's been made and seconded for flowers. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
the next thing I'm gonna pass out is, it was brought up at our last meeting, it's in your minutes, of who the rock belongs to. Rose did some research for me. She got a hold of our township manager, Norm Bamberger. And then she forwarded it to me here. You guys can take, this isn't nothing we have to act on today, but she got a hold of Kim Zimmer from MDOT. And MDOT is saying that it was not, that rock was not approved to be placed there on the site that is MDOT property, that they never received a permit. She further stated that the rock was installed by MDOT limited access right of way and was not approved. She wanted to say that the township is responsible and liable for the rock. Rose had a conversation with Norm Bamberger yesterday. We discussed the rock. He stressed that the rock is not owned, purchased, or was not installed by the DDA or the township. The township is not liable for the rock. Norm went on to say that the beautification project was totally separate and from the DDA and the township. The rock was placed on the site by the beautification committee. He shared that he recalls having 2 meetings with them, and that they wanted to basically be on their own and do this. He shared and advised them, and they went on as a nonprofit, and they would deal with liability concerns themselves, and he says those will never go away. Norm states that the committee wanted their own control. On the back of it is Norm's recommendation. The area of the liability is very important and can be a sensitive issue. There are many unknowns when it comes to liability exposure of this nature. Where there is no premium charge, it appears from the conversation, there could be significant liability exposure. At a recent meeting with you, the township supervisor and myself reviewing legal fees paid on behalf of other litigation clearly shows that no negligence on the township part but huge defense costs were sustained. As you are aware, he doesn't have opinions. He can just give us the cost and stuff like that. He says that this should probably go to that the township manager supervisor should talk about this, and we could even get Norm in there to talk a little bit about it.
Rose, did anybody seek information from the Township Association? We didn't make a call and get the legal advice?
As far as the rock and the liability,
Yeah, it doesn't, nobody has ownership of this rock. You can't transfer ownership if you don't know what the ownership is and where the liability issues are.
Norm's saying that the liability issues is the beautification.
no, I did not contact Michigan Township Association. I didn't deal with it.
Jeff put it there.
All right, so I have two questions. What happens if the beautification committee just goes away, or if we merge with them, are we liable?
Well, I'd be liable for the 27 acres that I donated in the canoe. Because it, yes.
We're gonna make it.
Well, based on what I'm reading there, you know, it's sitting on MDOT property, and if it were on my property, and as far as I'm concerned, MDOT really owns it, but we don't know. It's something that Norm, I think, needs to talk to all us about.
in Frankenmuth, with all those hotels and all that stuff that is on the property, on state property or whatever they call it there, I'm sure no individual people are taking the lawsuit for that. There's somebody, the city is covering something there. The sidewalk's only 5 foot off. This stone is sitting back, 60, 70 feet from the edge of the road, but the thing would be, yeah, we should get somebody legal, whatever you wanna do there. But then the bulldozer will come in, and it's just in time because I had given the go-ahead for the landscaper. We'll get the rock out of there, take it to the dump. I'm not gonna be the liability behind that. I'm not gonna be the liability on that just because Dixie cut stone. See, that rock was, we had, and I was there with MDOT, and I don't remember that I signed anything that it was illegal to put there. And I didn't sign anything, I mean, they didn't give us anything to sign any other way. And what it really boiled down to is we went ahead with it, there's no question about that. But they didn't come, while we're doing it, they didn't come and say, hey, you signed here, buddy, this, you're against the law, you're going to jail. We never said that. And if there, if the liability thing is there, really, then it'll be, do I have the right to get the bulldozer and the backhoe in there and load that rock and get it to the dump?
You haven't never got a permit to work in the road, and that's right away.
No, but I'll call them, I'll talk to them and get there.
Let me ask a question here for you. If I'm listening to what Norm's saying, it sounds like you'd be willing to sit down with yourself, Rose, Bobby.
He'll come in for the board.
Why don't we, because if we really, I almost think the chair and the vice chair should be at that meeting to go over that, but if we go back and, if the DDA is partnering up with beautification, okay, we need to take that responsibility to make sure that's insured, to have that liability. And I'm sure if you, all 4 or 5 of you sit down with Norm, I'm sure that you would persuade him by twisting his arm or two to make sure that that's covered. So I recommend that you guys have a meeting with him and make him figure out a way that's covered by liability.
I think we should have Rose contact the Township Association and see what you can find out from him of anything to help us with this?
When it comes to liability, when I call them, they're gonna advise us to call our attorney.
Yeah,
So that's why I went to Norm, because he's the one that handles all of these cases. That's where the first case, that's where we're gonna go to if something happens. The liability exposure's always been there. The rock, when the rock was placed there, Kim Zimmer with MDOT explained that nobody pulled a permit. It was just done. Nobody said anything, it just kind of
They
was
just turned their
placed
heads.
there.
Yeah, they just
So-
turned their heads, and I understand.
Right, so if we get with Norm, as Daryl suggested, we can talk through this and come up with a game plan at the end, I'm sure. The liability exposure is there, whether they come back on the DDA, they come back on MDOT, they come back on the township. If something happens and somebody's gonna put a lawsuit up, they're gonna come after everybody they can, because the whole intent's gonna be money.
Let's just figure out how we're gonna have that liability.
We'll do that.
Was MDOT actually on site when they were out?
Absolutely.
But remember, there's a lot of people changing in the state, and federal, with MDOT and all that, the past few years. That rock's been there for how many years? 10, 12?
I don't try to think smart, it seems like it was 92.
No, it was,
Oh my goodness,
in
it's
2000, either,
Two?
yeah, I believe.
Okay, that's where it was.
So you're gonna have a lot of people change it. They're gonna say, well, she said, he said, you know. So the best thing to do is just get the liability
Get some
covered.
liability coverage.
Absolutely. There's a way to do it.
Okay.
Any more discussion on rock? Let's move on then to the Historical Society request.
I received a letter from Diane McCarthy, she's the president of the Historic Society. Dear Steve, the Historic Society of Bridgeport is asking for some help and some improvements we must make for safety of the visitors of our village. It's very hard to read. I need a new porch deck ramp in front of the District 6 schoolhouse. Our present porch and ramp are sitting out and have become a problem. We also need a new door on our town hall and one for the museum itself. They're very old and can no longer be locked properly. If you can help us in these improvements, we would be very grateful. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. In close, please find an estimate for the combined project list. She gave me a project list that Tom Birkin Builders, $6,238. That's to remove and replace a double 2x6 swing door in Town Hall, remove and place a swing door on the lighthouse, remove one on the museum, a handicap ramp removed and replaced on all rails and deck boards, an 18 by 10 deck, remove and replace deck boards, all new treated wood to be stained and whatever. It comes to $62.38. My recommendation to the board is to give them $2,000 and let them go to other areas, other sources, like we have to sometimes with grants and stuff like that, and us not be totally responsible for $62.38.
Tanya, do we know of any grants that the Historical Society might apply for?
I don't, without doing some research. And they, I don't know, I have to do some research on that. I don't know, the ones we typically deal with are grants that are eligible for cities, townships, villages, governmental agencies. This is a 501c3, so it's a little bit different and a little different type of ballgame when it comes to grants and what they're eligible for.
Is that builder or contractor a resident of Bridgeport Township?
Yes.
I believe he is.
He lives right there, he's in the same neighborhood as Diane.
On Homewood Drive.
Did we donate anything to them in the past, or given them anything in the past?
Didn't we just help them out on some church or,
The chapel over there?
didn't we do some small funds on some bricks or something? Something was going on there last year.
Next to the post office, we moved it over to the
The town
Historical
hall.
The town hall.
There were some other things that we helped them with, funds. didn't pay all of it, we only paid a percentage.
I don't recall anything on the new chapel and stuff, and even when I was sitting on the board there.
Might not have been the new chapel, might be some mistakes.
Okay. No, but we did do something a few years back.
I think it was only a percentage, it was never the whole amount.
Was it the new bell that they?
It might have been that bell, the brickwork and stuff like that, we might put some more.
Place where the bell hangs and
Yeah.
up front.
Yeah, that's what it was. But we didn't do the whole amount, we only did, percentage.
My only comment is that they've done an awful lot with nothing.
No, I agree there.
You have to really break up the area there, right? Yeah, it's a very nice addition of the whole village.
I didn't hear in the letter that they were asking for the whole amount anyways, $2,000.
I called her on the telephone because she submitted the bill here of $6,238, and I asked her, is that what you're asking the DDA to pay for that? She said, yes, they would like the whole amount.
If we were gonna go for the whole thing anyway, we'd have to get more than one bid.
Yeah, you'd have to have three.
And I
bids.
think that's a really good price.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I bet you he's donating some of this labor
Tom
on
is done.
that.
Tom has donated a lot of time to that himself. I think it's.
I was just recommending a couple $1,000, as I said, we're getting a lot of these people. I think the next one will be the Bridge Fest coming and stuff like that, and, ultimately you guys make those decisions, but I wanna help them out, but are there other avenues that somebody else can help them out too?
I think that the historical village is a really nice touch in town, something that not every town has.
It's beautiful.
So we have the bridge in the historical community. Was there some issue about the pathway to get to the bridge through the historical village? I know there was some discussion on that 10 years ago. There was some concern that they had about the pathway. Anybody remember anything about that?
You're talking about tonight?
Yeah.
I remember talking about it, I don't remember.
I don't know if there's an issue.
I kinda agree with Jim, we should give them a couple thousand and let them get started, and they can come back and ask us again later, we see what's going on.
I was gonna say something on the same line. Do you know how much just the deck is? Because that's the dangerous part. Maybe, we could
No,
let them work out the doors.
nothing is broke down. It's just 1 through 6. You can all look at it before you just got an 8x10 deck, remove and replace deck boards with 5/4x6 treated wood. You just got a total of what the doors, the deck, and the whole package.
One of my other, I'm just pulling up some information too, was some of the, if you do a historic preservation type grant, some of the places that come up are National Park District or some of those federal agencies. And grant-wise, I think if you get into a historic preservation type grant, the project could get a whole lot more expensive because they might require you to replace it in kind. I don't know if these structures are on the historic register. If any of them are, then you've got to keep that historic value intact of the structure. You can't just go and replace with a door off Home Depot. So grant-wise, they get into some of that too if they.
Do you know if any of those buildings are in the historical registry?
I don't know. Some of those structures might be. I would bet that the town hall is. I would bet that the house is, and probably the schoolhouse. I don't know that for sure, but just a guess.
Maybe we could put this off to another meeting and have somebody from the Historical Society come and answer these questions.
Is that gonna affect the amount that you feel you would donate?
If they're in the historical registry and they have to be maintained, then the question becomes, what does the price go to, the whole cost?
Well, that's just, I believe she's just saying if you apply for the grant.
If you apply for a grant.
If you don't, then you don't have to do that. Is that correct, kind of?
If you apply for a grant, some of those restrictions might come into play.
But if you don't apply for it.
If you don't apply for it, you have a little more freedom.
You also said you'd have to do some homework to find out if there's any other way that any of the grants available.
Right. There might be a local foundation or something, that, you know, might not be a historic type grant that might be a source for them.
And we kind of instigated this, to be perfectly honest, because we sent Roberta out and about to see if there was any way we could help them, so. You know, we should put her on anywhere about this, so, if we're not able to help in other means as a committee, then we asked how we could help, so they shared, and now we should reply. So I could motion that we offer 3,100 possibly?
Motion made and seconded for $3,100.
Yeah, I was thinking too, we could take a look at what you said, what the stairway and porch or whatever was being done right away.
That would be the most dangerous thing to me, and the doors, you know, they can always come back to us later on or next year for money for the doors, but that 3,100 should come back. It's pretty dangerous to our
That's, I think we could agree to pay for that, and then, have them put together an itemized list of costs and try and get money somewhere else, and then go from there as to whether we would give them more or whatever.
Did you want to put in a motion that you require that the first dollars go towards that grant?
Yes, make a motion, the first dollars go toward the ramp. Well, we could get how would we do that as far as, we would agree to pay for decking the ramp?
We'd have to go back on the motion with Karen's initial
Yeah.
motion.
I just stated, opinion, I don't know. Somebody else agrees or disagrees, that's
What
fine.
is your pause over there, Rose?
I think you should request more information and just bring it back to the next meeting and have Diane or Sue or somebody come and talk. That way there you know what you're approving and what you're asking them to work with.
Well, the only thing I was thinking about is there, being that it's April, they're gonna be trying to open the place up pretty soon, and if that's a dangerous situation, if we could do something now and get it taken care of quickly for them, then they wouldn't have that issue with the dangerous situation, whatever it is.
And I do know it's something we want to get taken care of before their busy season starts.
Do we know it's a dangerous situation right now, or is it just something we're looking
I
at
know
saying?
by what Roberta said.
Well, we're not going to cave in right away, but it is bad.
So am I
Okay,
editing my motion?
There's a motion out here.
I would still go with the motion that she stated, because we're over discussion right now, right?
Right.
I would go in with the motion that you stated, and if they have issues of, that they need, that they can't get their funds to do that, then they can come back with a full, have them come here in person to say, hey, we need help more in detail.
I'll support the motion.
It actually already was supported. Would you like to put a
I'll
third on
third
that?
it.
Second supported. So we have two.
I'll turn around here, want to make sure.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded for $3,100.
Can I ask, are we specifying that it's to use for that, or just straight 3,100?
Straight 3,100. Any further discussion? Let's go with a roll call vote.
Thayer,
Yes.
Bamber,
Yes.
Gilbine,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Becher,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Turnbull,
Yes.
Flaker,
Yes.
Townsend,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes. Okay. That concludes the discussion on the Historical Society request. Let's move on to old business. And the canoe launch is up first, Steve.
The survey work has all been done by Spicer. Right now, we're just waiting on a closing date with the title company. And also, Tanya just brought in to me today, on April 1st, she submitted both of the grant applications.
Right.
Yep, and the survey work is complete, other than the fact that it's done on paper, but we haven't, because of the water levels, we haven't been able to get out and set the stakes in the ground. And so once we are able to do that, once the water level subsides, which, I mean, about a week ago, it was halfway up the property. Today, it's probably gone down some, but it's still, the soil might be wet. Once we get out there and put those stakes in, we may have to revise this drawing slightly, like if one of these points is sitting where a tree is, or, you know, we might have to adjust that. So it's in draft form. Once we are able to get the stakes set, we can finalize this drawing and then get the closing set up. But we don't want to finalize the drawing without setting stakes and then have the closing based on a property description that's not 100% accurate if we have to adjust it.
No, you can't predict the amount of water we have to deal with, but do you think that would be done by the next meeting?
I would suspect so. If we don't get a whole lot of rain, then we should dry out probably within another week or so. And should be able to get out there and do that.
Okay, any more information on the canoe launch? Let's move on to snow removal and the DDA sidewalks.
Okay, I'm gonna have Jamie pass out some information. Through my meeting with Paul Moore, on that sheet I gave you, you guys wanted me to do some research in communities. I've only been able to get Birch Run right now. I am going to expand out further. Jim did bring us a little bit of information last meeting on what Frankenwood does. But the DDA and Village of Birch Run have an interlocal agreement. The snow is removed as a courtesy on the side roads, but they maintain the main road only. They do not have a contract with the mall. There is no charge to any businesses or residents for the snow removal. 14 years ago, the DDA bought a John Deere model 1145 with a snow blower attachment locally from Beta Brothers. This also cuts the grass. They are currently looking at replacing it within, it's going to be this year, he said, with the 2015 model 1565. This price is out at $30,000. It is a piece of machinery that is used, if the piece of machinery is used somewhere other than the DDA district, the department that uses it will be charged a certain amount, and it seems to work like our equipment pool works. If you're looking at the quote that Jamie just sent to you, we would be doing the first one. Okay, the first one, if you look at the 19,732, that's a 1545 series. It does not have as much horsepower than the 1565. So that just goes away. If you look at the hard cab, which is 4552, the 72-inch mower, 3685.99. The 1565 series is actually the mower itself, which is in that catalog, is 21,381.36. The auxiliary hydraulic kit is 408.65, and since they have their snow blower, that does not need to be replaced. We would have to get the snow blower, and it's 3762.24. So if we were to look at something like this for our sidewalks for the DDA district, we would be looking at a brand new 2015 machinery for $33,790.66. A far better cry than what Frankfurt is, $100,000.
You said that includes the snow blower and
Everything.
And the hard cab.
Hard cab, everything, yes. It's right on that sheet right there, and it specifically tells what it includes. Now, something that I learned is, it's called an MI, deal purchasing fee from the state. You get a contract price from the state, and that's $180. So we would fill out an application for this MI deal purchasing, and it gives us the ability as a government identity to get a contract price. So those prices that you see that I just reeled off to you, those are actually the contract prices. So to get what's in that book, to do what Birch Run is doing, they're only paying $30,000 because they're keeping their snow blower, because that's in good shape. It would cost us $33,790.66. We don't have to act on this or anything. I'm just doing what the board has asked me to do, to check out different communities. I will come back with some more of that in the next month or two. And they only take care of the main streets, some of the side streets as a courtesy, where the schools are, kind of what I think Augie brought up, is the main traffic flow for the kids walking to school, in front of the state police post and stuff like that, where businesses aren't taking care of their sidewalks and they're tramping through it. They just take care of the main things for accessibility to the community, walking, and for the kids to get to school. The machine that they bought, they've had it for 14 years. And I don't remember, Paul didn't tell me what they paid 14 years ago, but they are purchasing a new one for 2015. The board did approve that for $30,000. I'm not done getting quotes. I'm going to probably go around, see what other communities are doing. I just wanted to bring this information back to you guys.
Steve, with a hard cap, did that include air conditioning and heater?
Good question, Augie. I did not ask that. I believe it had a heater on it. I don't know about the air.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another thing with that we had discussed a little bit was, like with the mowing deck, if the township was to utilize it, then it would be treated similar to a piece of equipment from the equipment pool, where the township would pay X number of dollars per hour that we utilized it, or whatever. So that would help with some of the costs.
And that's what they do right now. Actually, he uses a structure. I've got that structure. I was going to give that to Rose. They have a structure from MDOT. When MDOT sends out machinery and does whatever, or different, but it's the same thing, you're right. We would have to come up with some charge if the water department's using it or this one's using it.
I think there's a standard state list, and the equipment's probably listed on it, and there's a standard state rate that you could charge.
That's what he gave me.
Yep.
Well, it'd be basically along similar lines that we use here at the township, and various departments use equipment, they're charged so much against their department. And that kind of stuff.
And again, I'll bring some more information back. We have the whole summer for me to gather stuff before next year, and this is great that we're starting this now, I think. And Jim, you talked to the guy in Frankenmuth, and their equipment was $100,000, you said. Wow. At our last meeting. But I don't know if we're comparing apples to apples.
I think they're 22 years in that piece of equipment.
They probably do a lot larger areas.
Yeah.
Birch
Well,
Run or Bridgeport would be doing too, I imagine.
If you look at what Paul told me that they had, that one that they bought from Bader, it's not Bader Brothers anymore. They actually sold out. It's called Tri-County Equipment. And, but they carry the John Deere. Their last one, and I didn't ask them what they paid for it, but it lasted them 14 years. So even if we were to get something in that $30,000, $35,000, you're looking at a couple $1,000 a year if it lasted us 14, 15 years. Which is a pretty reasonable piece of equipment.
Has anyone surveyed the sidewalk situation in the township? Because there's sidewalk, no sidewalk, sidewalk, no sidewalk in a number of different places.
I have not.
That'd be,
I think at the point we decided we're gonna do something like that, then we would have to lay out a map, if you will, of what areas are gonna be done. And then another thing that I thought about, Steve, and I don't know if I mentioned it to you, these other communities for instance, Rose had a phone call from a lady who was very disturbed because she had paid to get her driveway plowed out. And then the county came along and did the roads and put snow back in the end of her driveway, and she was all upset about that. And that happens to all of us occasionally. But as they're doing this, as they're going along and plowing and they're blowing the snow, like if they got an open area, where do they blow the snow to, or if they had issues with that, and how do they handle it and that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Just something to think about as we move forward.
What Frankenmuth does with that is that they move their spout, try to pour it between the sidewalk and the road.
Yeah. You're still gonna wind up with areas where you got a long driveway, and I guess maybe you could lift it up, you go over the driveway. I was just curious, that's all, it's not a big deal.
Well, then if you, I mean, if you get into winters like you got this year too, if you put too much between the sidewalk and the road, you get into visibility issues where you can't see to get out of your driveway, so it's gotta be,
The nice thing about the blower is that,
right.
I use the blower and you can't even tell that somebody shovel and they got the big piles.
Okay, Steve, thanks for the input. Any more discussion on the snow removal? Let's move on to the Great Lakes Discovery Center.
At our last meeting, I told you we ran into a little snag. And last Thursday, Rose, myself, Andy from Spicer, and Tanya had a conversation with Jason, who's heading the, I'm sorry, are you guys okay? Okay, who's heading this up with the Fish and Wildlife. And I'll let Tanya talk a little bit about it too, but they kind of blew this up a little bit so that when they sent it down to Jason, he would have something bigger to go by.
Right.
Parcel number 1 is part of the exchange. I'm sorry.
Yes, it is, yep.
That is part of the exchange that they would be receiving. Parcel number 2 is where we have a dike that runs through, that the township maintains it, am I right?
Right.
And this was the parcel that was in question from a couple meetings ago that needed to be surveyed. And you guys gave us the okay to spend $1,200 to get that surveyed. We had 2 things. We had that one and the Sheridan Road one. Well, then we received the call from Jason, and that's when I put a halt on it. We weren't sure about this here, because this here is going to be part of the swap. This now belongs to Bridgeport, and it's the dike, and this is the one that they were concerned about. And through our talk with him, everybody was, it was a 4 or 5 way conversation. He believes that they don't need this. And he was going to talk to his supervisor, and I thought he would get back with us by now. I've been calling him every day. I believe he is on vacation. But he indicated, correct me if I'm wrong, that he thinks they don't need this and don't want this.
Right.
That would take care of no survey being done, and we would save that $1,200, and we would just have to get the Sheridan Road one done, which you approved of the $5,600, and we could get the deal wrapped up.
Right now, we've got it surveyed up to this point, and that's the survey you've seen here. So the line that runs here on this is that line. And what we thought was the triangular piece, once we got into all of the deeds, it became 5 different parcels. So no, because he would have access from this parcel too, from which is the dike, yep. And the dike actually comes along here, but then it kind of snakes up this way through parcel 4 too. So when we talked to Jason, we kind of mentioned that the township has to keep ownership of the dike in some fashion to be able to maintain it. And this isn't really the natural part of the land, it's all mowed grass. So we asked how important it would be, we thought.
Who's been maintaining it?
I think the township has.
That's correct. So he thinks he can take from the dike.
So he can take from this line south, which we already have surveyed, and then this issue with the triangular piece goes away. And then we just deal with the Sheridan Road parcel. So that's where we're headed.
But we are not at 100%, yes, that's what's gonna happen.
Right.
He left us with, he thought he'd get back with us, that was last Thursday, today's, so it's been like
Almost a week, yeah.
almost a week. And I've called him every day, I believe he's on vacation. But he led us to believe that they didn't need that. So right now, I'm halting everything until I get that okay, and Tanya gets that okay, that they don't need that piece of property. Then we just gotta worry about the Sheridan Road one, get that surveyed, and we should be able to do the land swap.
Yeah,
So that piece of property will remain with us.
right.
There's no need to
That's,
survey.
that's the
or
plan,
anything.
yeah,
That's today's plan.
yeah, right.
Other than the land the dike is on, what other township properties are around that?
I don't know, well, you own this piece, which I believe is part of the dike, and then you get into Davis Park, which is most of this over here. But where those parcel lines exactly run, I don't know, based on this without laying it out.
Okay, thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Tanya.
Any more on the Great Lakes Discovery Center? It's, DDA properties, there's no
No update?
update on that. Historic Bridge landscape.
What I will be doing now is getting 3 bids, and those were discussed last year down by the bridge area. What we're gonna do with the B&S down that property, who's gonna maintain all that. If you recall, Rose and I and Ruth Ann went down there. Township takes care of part of it, and then we need to get, that's when they hired Reliable to clean all that area up last year. So within the next week or 2, I will be getting 3 landscaping companies, one being Reliable and 2 other ones, and I'm hoping to keep it here in this area here, to give us sealed bids, and myself and Ruth Ann, and if Rose wants to go too, we will walk that area, show them what we want them to do, where we want them to keep that area clean and everything. We'll bring back the bids and you guys can open the bids up.
Okay. Anything more on the Historical Bridge landscape? That closes that topic. 4274 Dixie Highway.
That is that building, that house that we talked about, I believe it was a couple months ago. Rose followed back up on that. If you do recall, it was the one that the Saginaw County Land Bank was going to tear down for us, and nothing has happened at this time. Rose forwarded me this. The DDA inquired about the property at 4274 Dixie Highway, just within the Bridgeport Township next to Buena Vista. She spoke with Charlene at the Saginaw County Land Bank today. That was on March 19th. And they released today a release for demo to Rohde Brothers. She stated because of weight, road restrictions, right now it may be a little bit before they demo the building. However, she also stated that roadies are pretty quick to act on things. Would you please inform the board at my next meeting? So that project is ready to be done as soon as the land bank gets in there and roadies gets scheduled to go.
Okay, any more questions or issues on the 4274 Dixie Highway? That concludes that subject. Let's go to 6001 Dixie Highway.
That is the piece of property that is between the old chamber building and the building that, or the property that Jaeger Roofing is going to be buying. I've been in contact with Lee Hoffmann. I'm meeting Lee today after our meeting to sign the purchase agreement. Jaeger Roofing is tying this all into one loan application. You approved, I read a letter last month that they offered $5,000 for that piece of property. You approved that. I called him back. He was extremely happy, so he will be he's putting his finances together, and I'm signing today with Lee for a purchase agreement, and Lee is only charging us $200. We couldn't even call an attorney for that. So I'm letting Lee handle that. We're gonna sign that today. And that project should be going through, so Jaeger has that property, and then we'll own that DDA piece of property at 62 or 6001 Dixie, or whatever.
Okay. Any questions on the demolition of that building? That concludes the 6001 Dixie Highway subject. And we need to move on to closed session. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to go into closed session.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Thayer,
Yes.
Bamberg,
Yes.
Gilvine,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Batcher,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Turnbull,
Yes.
Slaker,
Yes.
Housen,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes. Come out of closed session. Roll call, please.
Thayer,
Yes.
Bamberg,
Yes.
Gilvine,
Yep.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Batcher,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Turnbull,
Yes.
Slaker,
Yes.
Townsend,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to have our coordinator follow through what was discussed in closed session.
Support.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay, that concludes the closed session, and we have the coordinator's report.
Yeah, where it says discussion, I just wanted to talk to the board. Remember I used to have my report on another sheet? Well, basically what was on that sheet was exactly what I was reporting on the front. So I just kind of eliminated that unless you want that. But in my report today, I went to the chamber meeting, Birch Run, Bridgeport. Daryl was there. I thought it was a great meeting. I can see some progress between the two communities, and I think in all it's going to work out well.
Yeah, they worked in the area 4 hours.
Yesterday,
Yesterday, and they're gonna be working in that area. They're doing, I'm impressed. Very, very, very positive. They're, very excited to have, very, very excited to have us aboard.
We, getting any closer to having a name change?
Oh, no, I would say you're gonna see it.
You doing any carpooling for that meeting?
They do something.
yep. Actually, Rose was going to go today, but she had something she had to really get done. But she goes every month with me. We meet right here, and then I'll drive over. So if you'd like to go, oh, they changed the meeting time to 9 o'clock, and it's held at the
Well, it depends, they'll announce it.
Silver.
Silver
They're going to have it at
Creek
Silver Creek Apartments there.
1 hour and a half, no more.
Yeah.
Normally it's 1 hour.
And it's always the second Wednesday, just like our meeting here, so if you'd like to go, be more than, about 8:45, show up, and you could ride with me and Rose over, or anybody else. The other thing I wanted just to, some of you may have heard it in a rumor, and it's not a rumor, but it's not finalized. Ron has given me these spec sheets. Everyone knows where the Speedway gas station is, right? Down this way. And then the Marathon gas station that is all boarded up. Speedway has bought that property. They're in the stages right now of putting a whole new gas station. They're going to rip down the Speedway and build a whole new building with truck stop and everything in the back and stuff. I asked Ron if I was able to talk about this because he said yes. The water department's went down there. I think you may see some stakes starting to go up there and stuff like that, but they're getting all their plans together to approach the zoning and planning and zoning board, and they're proposing speedway in with islands and stuff like that. It looks very, very nice, and tearing that other, both buildings would come down. Maybe started over.
How many acres did they purchase?
I haven't looked at it totally. I just talked to Ron yesterday. Does it say? These aren't the big blueprints yet.
It doesn't say them. Or at least if it does, it's grayed out.
So I just wanted to let the board know that that is in the works right now.
Okay.
At the last meeting, it was brought up about the welcome sign as you're entering coming in from BB to Bridgeport. The welcome sign that's there, whose property that sits on. Actually, Rose did some research, got me that information, and that sign sits on Consumers Power's property.
Is it on Consumers Power right away or right of their property?
Their property, they own that stretch.
Because the high tension lines are there. Okay, Steve, anything else?
And that's it of my report.
Okay, member comments? Roberta?
I don't have another comment. Steve, I have a question. Have we done anything with the historic sign that we were gonna get for Bridge?
I have not. You asked me that after our last meeting, and I responded to you. The gentleman who I will be working with on that is Carmel. No. Vern. When I talked to Vern, after Rose gave me information over the winter months, Vern was actually in Florida and gone. That is on my next to-do list to get that going so that we can maybe have something there by summer. Vern is very knowledgeable, I guess, about historic stuff, and he wants to come in and have a meeting with me, but he was getting ready to go on vacation, and we just weren't able to put it together. That is on my to-do list, down at the bridge yard.
Eugene? Augie?
I just wanted to say, I think Steve's doing a fine job, and appreciate what he's done as far as doing his homework and that kind of stuff, which is really good for us. The other thing is, I'm real excited about us putting in flowering pots and flags and Christmas decorations. I think it's not that great of an investment, and I think psychologically it's going to make a big difference in Bridgeport. So I think we got some real good things going. We need to continue doing that.
Darryl?
No comment.
Vincent?
Nothing here.
No comment. Okay,
Before we adjourn, I forgot one thing on my list here. Rose and I did stop out yesterday. We were in the community. We stopped over at the B&S Heating and Cooling. They're doing a very nice job remodeling inside. If you ever want to see what they're doing, it is looking very nice. We also went down to the property. They plan on giving, he told me he could give me a key today, or yesterday. I said, no, that's okay. We just have a desk that needs to be removed and just a couple other little things. And they're going to pay everything. They've been paying the water, consumer bills and everything right up until the 1st of May. Then we will do what we have to do. My plan there is, I have talked to Tanya a little bit about, we're trying to put our creative minds together of a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. Do we tear it down? Do we make it into a little park? Do we make it this? Do we make it that? So that is a project that I'm going to be working on and working a little bit with Tanya on so that we can bring that back to the board in a month or 2 months or whatever. But we will get our key in the end of the month, and then it'll go into, we'll get the water either turned off or the heat, whatever. And I was kind of glad they were still in there in the winter. We didn't have to worry about the building.
Steve, if you could check with the property lines, you know, going toward the railroad tracks, whether those big trees belong to you or they belong to the guy that owns the house?
Where, down here,
Yes.
Past the building,
past the what?
the BS building.
Okay, so by the railroad tracks, right?
Yeah, if Spicer could run, you know, check that out for stakes, because there's some huge trees in there. That, you know, the neighbor says, no, you can't cut them, but you can plant them in front.
My guess is that, I don't know, I mean,
We can check it out.
yep.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, that's all I had.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.